What do you do when you've done something wrong and you're just consumed with guilt? Maybe you've hurt someone you love, or you made a really poor decision that you can't take back. Maybe you've apologized. Maybe you've tried to make things right, but you can't turn the clock back. Perhaps you feel like you don't deserve to move on, as if carrying that guilt like a really heavy rucksack on your back is what you deserve for the rest of your life. And the thought of forgiving yourself just feels so far away. But the thing is, guilt isn't the same as growth. You can take responsibility and stop punishing yourself. Those two things can coexist. Welcome to my channel. I am Dr. Liz White, a consultant clinical psychologist. By the end of this video, you'll be clearer on what self-forgiveness actually is, why self-forgiveness feels so hard, and I'll be talking about the guilt-shame spirals that might be keeping you stuck, what the research says about people who can and cannot forgive themselves, and stick around to the end because I'm going to be showing you how you can finally move forward through the process of self-forgiveness. We often imagine forgiveness as a single turning point where you magically decide to let go and peace follows. But psychologically, self-forgiveness isn't just one decision. It's a process of healing and coming to terms with what happened. It begins with honesty. Facing what happened, acknowledging the wrongdoing without minimizing or defending it. Then comes responsibility, acknowledging your part and, where possible, making amends. The deeper task, though, and one that doesn't get talked about that much, is repairing the relationship with yourself. Because when you've done something that goes against your own values, it doesn't just cause guilt, it damages trust in yourself. You start to question your own judgment. If I could do that, what does that say about me? It's about learning to believe in your own integrity again, learning to trust yourself. It's holding two truths at once. I did something that caused harm, and I'm still capable of goodness and responsibility. A study in 2024 showed that as well as acknowledging wrongdoing and accepting responsibility, genuine self-forgiveness also involves separating behavior from identity. What you did isn't who you are. In addition, it's about learning to cultivate compassion towards yourself and recommitting to your values. Another interesting thing to come out of that research is that self-forgiveness isn't linear. It fluctuates between guilt, defensiveness, and acceptance as we gradually rebuild integrity in that self-trust. So instead of thinking of self-forgiveness as a destination that you arrive at, it's better understood as a process that you heal through, like tending to a wound. At first, it's raw and painful. You want to cover it, hide it, pretend it's not there. But healing only begins when you clean that wound, when you face what happened with honesty and care. Over time, the pain dulls, the tenderness fades. But every now and then, something brushes against it. A memory, a conversation, an anniversary of a date, and it stings again. That doesn't mean it's not healed. It just means that you're still sensitive where it mattered most. Each time you tend to it gently, without harshness, with self-compassion, the wound closes a little more. Eventually it becomes a scar, not invisible, but no longer painful. And that scar isn't proof of failure, it's evidence of healing, a reminder that repair takes time and attention. Self-forgiveness works the same way. So if self-forgiveness is a healing process, why does it feel so hard to begin? Guilt and shame are important emotions, and they're designed to keep us aligned with our values and principles. Guilt says, I did something wrong. Shame says, there's something wrong with me. In a healthy form, guilt motivates repair, an apology, a change in behavior, learning. But when shame takes over, guilt stops being useful and it turns into a bit of a spiral, one that drags you deeper down each time you revisit it. And here's how that spiral can unfold. It starts with a trigger. a memory, a date, or a commitment brings it all back. Then the self-attack. Thoughts like, how could I have done that? A good person wouldn't have done that. Then those really difficult emotions. You feel exposed, tense, anxious. Maybe it shows up in your body. You feel sick with disgust and contempt with yourself. And naturally, human beings avoid difficult feelings. You try to outrun that discomfort, distract from it, hide from it, or try and shut it down. Then relief that is short term until the next time when another reminder shows up. So you become trapped in self-punishment that leads nowhere. That spiral becomes a way to manage anxiety and shame rather than to create real repair. Another study in 2025 showed that people who really couldn't forgive themselves described certain things about their experience. They weren't just remembering what happened or what they did, they were reliving it emotionally and physically, as if in real time, and as if time hadn't moved on. So there are certain thinking patterns that we can identify in people who find it very difficult to forgive themselves. First, moral perfectionism. A good person wouldn't have done this. Sometimes there's a belief that you deserve suffering. Feeling bad forever proves that I have some integrity. Sometimes there's a fallacy of control. If I stay guilty, I can stop it from happening again. There can also be a kind of fusion between the wrongdoing and someone's felt sense of identity. I did a bad thing, therefore I am a wholly bad person. And then there could be beliefs around avoidance of emotions. So if I face this fully, it's going to overwhelm me and I won't be able to cope. And each belief keeps that spiral turning. It's emotionally exhausting and it blocks what guilt is originally meant to do, help you learn and repair. So the question is, what actually helps someone break out of that spiral, out of that replay of the past, and helps them move towards genuine self-forgiveness? Let's take a look. The research shows that the difference between people who can and people who can't forgive themselves comes down to three things. First, there's a time element. Those who could forgive themselves saw the event or the wrongdoing as belonging in the past. It was part of their story, but it no longer defined them. Those who couldn't forgive themselves experienced it in the present, or as if it was present. The guilt felt live and ongoing. Second, moral identity. The people who healed could see themselves as fundamentally decent, even whilst acknowledging what they had done. The ones who stayed stuck felt that their mistake erased their goodness. Third, coping style. Those who forgave themselves engaged with their feelings and emotions. They talked, reflected, made repair. Those who couldn't relied on avoidance, distraction, overthinking, or withdrawal to manage their feelings. So the takeaway from this research is clear. People who heal and self-forgive act very differently. They stop waiting to feel forgiven and start rebuilding trust in themselves. They work through the discomfort, not around it. So before I go on to describe how you can start the process of self-forgiveness, given what we've learned so far, if you found value from this video, it would mean so much if you could just give it a like, and if you want more tips for your mental health, then hit subscribe. So now we understand what can keep people stuck. Let's talk about how you can move forward with self-forgiveness. So the research is clear. Self-forgiveness is not about replaying the past over and over again so that you feel bad enough. It comes from changing how you relate to what happened and how you relate to yourself. First, step out of the past and into perspective. So people who eventually forgave themselves stopped reliving the event as if it was happening in the here and now. They began seeing it as something that did happen, not is happening. So maybe you cheated and you can't stop replaying that moment where your partner found out about it. Each time that memory surfaces, the shame floods in as if it's happening right now. And instead of spiraling into, how could I do that? Try grounding yourself in real time. That experience belongs to that moment in the past. I can't change it, but I can decide how I live now and how I show up in my relationship. And that's where that self-forgiveness journey begins. You stop time traveling and start actually reflecting on what you've done and what it means for you in the here and now. Second, take ownership, not control. The people who healed accepted responsibility, but they didn't take the entire weight of the universe on as well. So say you ended your marriage badly, or you walked away from someone who trusted you. Responsibility means naming the harm, apologizing if you can, and understanding what fear or pain led you to that act in the first place. Accountability is about learning, not perpetual self-punishment. Third, reconnect with your sense of decency. People who forgave themselves didn't deny what they'd done. They just refused to let one act erase everything else about them. You can say, yes, I betrayed someone who loved me, and still hold on to the truth that I'm capable of doing better, of being kinder, of acting differently next time. Acknowledging that you messed up, you made a mistake, but that you can learn from it. Next, turn towards the pain, not away from it. People who stayed stuck tried to bury their guilt and their shame and all the difficult feelings that came along with it. The ones who healed let themselves feel it. And maybe that means sitting with the memory of what you've done and allowing the pain of that to exist without trying to fix it or distract away or push it away. Feeling the full weight of it doesn't break you. It integrates the pain into meaning and into your story. Next is live the repair. The people who moved on didn't wait to be forgiven. They acted their way into it. Maybe they reached out to apologize, respected a boundary that wasn't theirs to decide anymore, or chose to be radically honest in a relationship. Every action that reflects the values that you betrayed helps you rebuild trust, not only with others, but with yourself. And last, let it take the time that it needs. Even those who managed to forgive themselves said that forgiveness wasn't neat and tidy. Some days felt peaceful, other days there was a reminder, a place, a song, a name, and that reopened the wound. But that doesn't mean that you failed. It just means that you need to tend to that wound. Again, reflecting on it, being open to the feelings around it. And each time you meet that pain with honesty instead of avoidance, compassion instead of defense, you strengthen that repair. That's what real self-forgiveness looks like. Not erasing the harm, but carrying the lesson from it with integrity. Self-forgiveness isn't about forgetting or pretending that what you did didn't matter. It's about accepting that what's done cannot be undone, and choosing to live differently because of it. You can't get in a time machine and go back into the past, but you can stop punishing yourself for it. And when that guilt flares up, and most likely it will, remind yourself that this is what healing looks like, and trying to be as open to that pain as you can. Now, I hope this video has given you some ideas on how to start that process of self-forgiveness. Let me know in the comments what's resonated with you today, and I'll see you in the next video.